Forge Gang! Let's go! It is your host, Warhammer, here with the host with the most, the Warhammer! Let's go! Forge Gang! Forge Gang! Alright. So the main topic that I wanted to talk about was Japanese culture and the influence of Japan and other Asian culture, or other forms of Asian culture in the West, or in white countries. Also, a lot of Hispanics and blacks I noticed, and even Muslims seem to be really interested in Asian culture too. Are you talking about Kill la Kill, Eric? Dude, that anime is over 10 years old now, Kill la Kill. Didn't Kill la Kill come out in 2011, 2012, bro? I don't know, bro. Alright, so anyways, I gotta get my clothes into the dryer. Dude, Eric, you don't have a girlfriend, you have a sex doll. I don't think you have a real girlfriend, you have a sex doll. Like, if you were fucking making out, bro, and having kids and stuff, for people like you having kids, then why is it that the birth rates in Europe are so low? Like, doesn't Belgium have a very low birth rate? Hold on a second, let me finish this up. Forge Gang, Forge Gang, Forge Gang for life, Forge Gang, Forge Gang. There, I got it, man. Alright, I want to talk about Japanese culture a little bit, or the influence of Japanese culture. Now, Japan used to be a very secluded island. It was very insular and very cut off from the rest of the world. The only connections that the Japanese had were to Korea and China. Okay, so like, Japan was highly influenced by Sui and Tang Dynasty China, right? And that's how the Yamato state rose up and built up and had a, like, the Yamato state rose up and had, like, the imperial state in there, and then for a long time, the samurai elites and the warrior classes ruled. And then Japan was closed up for a long time, and it was opened up. So Japan borrowed a lot of Western technology from, Europe and from North America. But the Japanese, they manipulate, like, a lot of their history. They deny a lot of their war crimes. Like, They literally run a lot of stuff about the Pacific War and stuff. They call it the Great East Asian War. Like, in Japan, it is the Pacific War, or World War II is referred to as the Great Asian War, or it's referred to as the Great East Asian War. It's not even referred to as World War II. And usually what they will do is they will try to write off a lot of what Japan did, and they'll try to say that Japan's own civilians and people were tricked or manipulated by the militarists. The military ran loose, like the militarist proxies took over the government. They destroyed the parliamentary system that was put up during the Meiji era, and the country ran loose. It ran out of control, and it went to war with all these different countries and with the United States and with the British Empire and the Netherlands. And, they'll try to say that Japanese people were ultimately victims. And then they'll try to make the claim that it was not the fault of Japan or the Japanese imperial system that was the reason why Japan went to war. So Japan tried, before and during World War II, to run a gambit of trying to have a strong militaristic empire and trying to be a strong country on par with other Western countries. But it backfired, and 2 atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and Japan was occupied. After the occupation, Japan focused on civilian building and stuff. They focused on basically having a lot of hardware. They produced a bunch of hardware, and they produced a bunch of electronics and stuff. So Japan became a very strong economic superpower after World War II. After 1968, Japan overtook West Germany as the second strongest economic power. It became the second strongest and most resilient economic country in the world after the United States and the Soviet Union. And the Japanese tried to basically become a very strong economic power. They built a bunch of trucks and a bunch of like toasters and refrigerators and like electronic appliances and a bunch of high-tech wear and stuff. For example, the truck that I drive, a Toyota, that's made in Japan. So Japan became a big manufacturing hub. But in the 1980s, Japan's economy started to backslide into a bubble economy. Like Japan modernized and tried to go at it too fast. In the 1970s, the oil shock happened, and like the Japanese had to backslide from, trying to become a global economic powerhouse like the United States did earlier in the 20th century. And so by the end of the 80s, the Japanese yen was pinged up against the US dollar, and it lost out because of that. Okay, and then after the 1990s, the Japanese economy plummeted. It crashed. And this is like right when Japan transitioned to high-tech industries, to video games, to anime and stuff. So that was the second attempt. The third attempt that Japan has done is to export its culture. And what the Japanese have done is they've exported their culture to other countries through video games, through manga, through anime and stuff. And this is what they've been doing from the 2000s and on. So Japan has been pushing a lot of cartoons, a lot of anime, a lot of manga, a lot of video games, and a lot of high-tech VR-related stuff. And also, they've been trying to export their culture. So Japan is very popular now because of that. Like with the youth, with young people, a lot of young people love Japan. A lot of Japanese manga of late has been pushing a lot of furry stuff. So yeah, like a lot of furry stuff has been promoted in anime and manga lately. There's a lot of cultural stuff that the Japanese have exported. And so I was just wondering what your guys' thoughts might be about this. Like, what would your thoughts personally be about the impact Japan has had? They tried to be a militaristic power. They tried to build up a large empire, and they tried to be a militaristic power. Then they tried to be like an economic power. And then finally they became like, they started to export their culture through manga, through anime, and video games. And a lot of white countries have been heavily influenced by this. Like, a lot of Western countries have been heavily influenced, heavily ingrained in this kind of cultural exportation. There is a new character in the latest season of Shield Hero that wears animal costumes as part of her powers. Yeah, that's what I mean, bro. Japan's a weird culture. Like, in Japan, on the one hand, they will deny any kind of atrocities the Imperial Japanese Army committed in the Pacific War, but then they will promote a lot of transgender manga. Like, there is a bunch of different types of transgender manga and anime in Japan. And there's a lot of characters that transition from male to female or from female to male. There's a lot of cross-dressing aspects in Japan, and even nudity in the way that we see it in the West is different in Japan. So yeah. So it's a very interesting thing I want to talk about. Alright, so I'm going to start a live stream, and I am going to bring DJ Axel on to talk about this. So for right now, this will be the end of part 1.